What's going on, YouTube? You know what it is. It's your favorite perfumers, favorite perfumer, baby. We back again. But today, I am not doing a review of any perfume because I've been thinking about my channel, and I keep telling you I'm your favorite perfumer, and I have absolutely nothing to show for it. So it's like you watching, you're probably like, why should I even believe this guy? And to that, can't deny. So I figured, let me offer maybe something of value to some people who are interested in making perfumes. So I decided to maybe show a little bit into the realm of perfume making for people who want to get into it, or for people who already have some materials and they're not necessarily sure which route they could take to make a perfume. Because I got into it thinking it would be easy, and unfortunately it's not. It's very difficult, it's very tedious, but kind of once you understand I don't want to say the method, but kind of once you understand what to do, it's about just tedious, meticulous progression from there. And over time, you begin to gain an intuition on the way molecules and naturals will interact with each other to create the desired outcome, right? So about 20 minutes ago, I decided I was going to do this. So I might be waffling a little bit. I'm going to try not to, though, but I wrote up two small formulas, one that was more on the perfume side and then one on the perfume side. Obviously both have certain materials in them. They could both be used for unisex fragrances. I don't really care. It was just kind of more so to highlight the way you can use things to, as I say, like convey an idea on what it is you want to achieve. So before I get into it, I just want to talk about maybe what your goal is. So I know sometimes they'll say like, oh, we had like a brief, and it might have been for a girl in her 30s and she's a businesswoman. I don't know, whatever, right? And so you have to start thinking about how I'm going to get to this point and turning your idea into something tangible. So what you want to think about is, again, what that end goal is. So just in terms of the technical aspect of fragrance creation, there's kind of four main characteristics that will determine what a perfume will be or how it will perform, right? So when designing a fragrance, a lot of the times they're built on molecules that have decent duration. They last a fairly long time. Not always, but that's kind of, you want like this foundational aspect of a perfume, and then you're going to add, usually in lower doses, higher impact materials to create character of the fragrance. Yo, my lips are so dry right now, bro. I can't take this weather anymore, man. It's fucking cold. Fragrance, let's get into it. So I'm going to explain what all these things are. So you have impact. So what impact? So there, as I said, there's four main characteristics of a molecule or a natural. Right now, naturals are made up of hundreds of molecules, and I want to say this for those of you who go gung-ho over things. Natural does not necessarily mean better. There's a lot of molecules in naturals that are extremely skin irritant, phototoxic, and there's some synthetic molecules that are not good either. So neither are better, neither are worse. I like using both because naturals can help obviously add a natural effect and vibe to something, and synthetics can help either carry a fragrance or completely change your fragrance, because there's a lot of things you can't do naturally. So like in the last video, the Al Haramain thing, that was talking about pineapple and melon, you can't really do that naturally. So you can use natural isolates, which are molecules that occur obviously in nature, and they have natural versions where they're extracted from a natural element. But that's so deep. So you have impact. What is impact? Impact is how fast the intensity of a molecule will hit you in the face, right? So something like isoamyl acetate. So this smells highly like banana, and once you smell it, it'll slap you around like your uncle used to do. So that's what impact is. It's just how fast something will hit your little nosy there. Then you have tenacity. So what tenacity is just how long a molecule will maintain its character over time. So something with tenacity would be a musk, like ethylene brassylate or musk tea, acetone, has a couple names. So as a material, it lasts a very long time. It's not super impactive. It doesn't hit you, but it'll be there for like ever. If you ever spray perfume on clothes and you don't wash the shirt or something like that, and you come back and smell it, it probably still might smell like musk. It's probably ethylene brassylate. It just lasts like fucking forever. And you have diffusion, which you guys just love so much because God forbid something smells good, we just need everyone to smell us. So diffusion is essentially the thing in a molecule that will create the cloud around you, what they call sillage, right? So diffusion is kind of how effective a molecule performs over distance. That's a good way to put it. Like how far out it goes. Look, you just hug in reverse, right? Just hug in reverse. And then you have volume. So what volume? Oh, so actually something diffusive would be, which we all know, something like ambroxan. Ambroxan is a diffusive material. You can smell it on the top of a fragrance because it's so powerful, and then you can smell all the way down to like the end portion of the fragrance, in the 8, 9, 10 hour mark. You could still smell ambroxan depending on how it was dosed and how it was blended together. So it's an absolutely diffusive molecule. Or another one like cashmere, same thing. And then you have volume. So what volume is how the molecule, it's kind of like combining diffusion and tenacity together. So it's how long it maintains that character over time. Because some things can be diffusive, but in a shorter time period. So phenylethyl alcohol is pretty diffusive, but it doesn't last that long. Whereas something like Evernyl Veramos, it's called. So this is it's a powder, and it's what most fragrance houses market as oak moss now. That's kind of what they use. So they use Evernyl Veramos, right? So that is it's projecting, it's super strong, and it lasts again for a very, very long time. So that's really nice. My glasses are dirty, my lips are dry. What the hell is going on this morning? So that's pretty much, those are the 4 main elements that you kind of want in a fragrance, and you want to combine them. Now, you don't necessarily have to use things that lean this way. So you don't just need a bunch of diffusive materials and put them together and think something's going to be good. That's not really how it works, because you need those faint materials at times, because they can either create textures, they can do things for other molecules, if that makes sense. So we're going to kind of get into that a little bit. So as I said, about 25-ish half hour ago, I made 2 little formulas. As I said, one fem, one homme kind of thing, really quick. Ironically, they both had 11 lines to the material, to the formula. So I'm gonna put it somewhere over here so you can see it. So I wrote it down on paper. As you guys know, probably I record on my phone, so I can't actually look at the real one. I can't even look at myself. I'm looking at the back of my phone, so I leave a lot to chance. But I'm a risk taker, so I'm gonna do the Pour Femme one first. We're gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do a next video where I'll do the Pour Homme, and we'll talk about that. I feel like I'm missing something I wanted to say. I don't remember what it's. Oh, so just real quick, I'm using just some dropper bottles. I diluted everything in alcohol to 20%. You could do 10% if you want. Sometimes when you do things at 20%, they, like powders or crystals, they'll like crash out and they'll go back to being crystal because the dilution's too high and it's not fully soluble. So there's kind of that. Also, as you can see in the formula, it totals out to 1,000. So what does that mean? It's just an easier way of writing a fragrance to where you can have a lot of something and a little bit of something, and you can fit it kind of into that realm. When you make your own formulas, or when you decide to start trying trials and trying to find interactions, this, that, and the third, you can, how can I say it? You don't have to equal 1,000, and it doesn't matter. It's just for recreatability, and it's just for ease of use. So where if you want to scale up and make larger batches and things like that, it's just so much simpler because you have easier numbers, if that makes sense. So again, sometimes I make a formula and it's 705. What are you gonna do? I'm not gonna just add stuff to make it 1,000. It doesn't make sense. If the thing is, if you're happy with it at a certain point, or mostly happy with it, there's no reason to do that. And then also, I like 10-gram trials. So all my trials, I try to add up to 10 grams, and I typically use the materials neat. But since I'm just doing this, I figured let me just dilute it real quick. That's kind of what I use my dropper bottles for, like real quick trials, because it's just easier. And I keep them at 20% because I technically like a higher concentration. Now, don't think that because something's at a higher concentration, it's going to perform better. That's not how it works at all. You can have something at 12% and the top of the fragrance is super diffusive. And you can take that same formula and you can make it 25, 30%, and it's going to be muddied shit. And it's not going to do anything. It's going to be a skin scent in 10 minutes. Sometimes that's how it works. So you really have to kind of think about, so 20% is kind of like an arbitrary concentration I could use to where you get a little idea of where it's going to sit, because I can change it later when I do my trial with neat materials. I hope that kind of makes sense. If you have any questions, absolutely ask me, because I have the answers. So speaking of that, look, I diluted some vanillin because we're using vanillin, as you can see. So I have it on my radiator. My wife always makes fun of me because I say radiator, not radiator, but I'm from Queens, so I say radiator. I don't care what you say, but radiators don't radiate, they radiate, right? I'm from Queens, bro. What are you gonna do? So anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna go through the materials real quick. I'm not gonna try and look at my book too much. I want to look at you guys, and I know you guys want to look at me. So I'm gonna go through each material, and I'm kind of gonna go through where I came from choosing these ratios and proportions. As I said, I wrote it up really quick, so I have no idea how this smells. So we're gonna do this together. And also, if you live in the U.S., real quick, you could pick up stuff from Perfumer Supply House, Perfumer's Apprentice. If you're across the pond, you can do Pellwall. I know Perfumier is direct PCW out in France. Some Western folk, they have issues with the eastern part of the world. They're skeptics, I believe. So there's Perfumer's World, Bulk Aroma. I've ordered from both of them. I don't notice a fucking difference, to be honest. And I've been doing this for about 5-ish years. 5-ish, maybe going on 6 years. Everything smells good to me. I don't really like. I am specific though with my naturals. So my naturals I typically just get from Eden Botanical or Liberty Natural, and I have some things from Plant Therapy. They're pretty good too. I haven't noticed anything, and they have SDS reports of their batches, so that's always a good thing. It's hard to find trusted suppliers. It is. And then also, if you don't know what something smells like, how do you know you got the fucking thing, right? I mean, I get it. This is a little difficult, and this is a bit of a pricey hobby. So if you're broke, skip it, or you could just watch it for fun if that's what you want to do. I mean, I don't care. Anyways, I chose some of these materials. For one, I think these are things that any beginner would and should have. I think these are pretty important. I think they're highly versatile, super usable. And one other thing is that when it comes to formulating, unfortunately, now it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound counterintuitive that I'm saying unfortunately, but there's really no rules at all. So you would think, oh wow, there's no rules. That's pretty good, right? So having no rules means that you are open, we're still on, that you're open for shit tons of creativity. However, sometimes that's what makes it difficult, because if you have rules in place, you understand the confines in which you can create something. But if you have no rules, you don't really know where to start. So I'm hoping that this is where we can begin. Now, I swear to God, I'm going to get into it. I'm waffling a little bit. In terms of creating fragrance, I know a lot of times things come up, say like, oh, have 25% top and 30% mid and whatever, 60% base notes. It's not necessary. It's not. You don't have to do it. Again, there's no confines. It's just an idea on how to do something, right? It's just kind of like, here, try this out. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's not. I don't think it's necessary. And most formulas, like contemporary formulas, aren't built like that at all. Most fragrances are nowhere near built like that. because they usually contain the same shit in most cases. Wow, I'm thirsty. Okay, so, and then also there's things like the John Carl method, which is about putting materials in proportions out of 10. So you could say, like, I have two materials, one at 9 and the other at 1, or then 8 and 2, 7 and 3, 6 and blah, blah, blah. To me, this is very wasteful, and I don't think you learn a whole lot. I think it's much better to skim down something, maybe pick 3, 4, 5 materials, blend them in proportions that you think might be good based on just how you smell them. And speaking of how to smell, you dip things on strips and you smell them over time. Seriously, it's very important. A lot of people don't think it's important. I think it's very important, because then you just learn how something behaves. And you should know the individual aspects of what you're putting into something. If you don't really know how it behaves over time, well, then you don't really know, because sometimes there's some materials that might smell away initially, and then maybe in 6 hours, 7 hours on a strip, it might smell like ass, or these strange nuances might come out, or something like a natural, it might smell a certain way on the top, and then towards the end of it, it might get bitter, it might have a sour note, it might have an off note, or something you don't like. So you need to know that, right? Because if you don't know that, what the hell are you doing? You're gonna be all fucked up. And we don't want that. We want to be good. So, can we start? I think so. I think I covered everything I think I need to cover. So hopefully we're at a good place now. So, formula. Okay. As I said, it's out of 1,000, ease of use. So on the top portion of the fragrance, we have bergamot. As you can see, that is in the citrus family. So bergamot is a bright, citrusy, I would say kind of juicy note. So bergamot is typically made up of linalool, linolyl acetate, limonene. I would say those are kind of the three things. There's some terpenes in there, other things like that. So bergamot has kind of like this woody-ish facet, kind of lavender-like. Everyone always talks about the tea. And then the juicy, citrusy aspect is coming from limonene. And limonene, if you don't know what limonene smells like, if you ever smelled sweet orange or just an orange in person, that's kind of the limonene odor. So it's very juicy, citrusy. And bergamot, as I said, it's, because linalool and linolyl acetate are slightly herbal as well. They're slightly woody, slightly floral, slightly citrusy. They're super versatile materials, and that's why also they're very good to use in isolation. So where you could just put in your own linalool as opposed to using it from a natural like bergamot or lavender. So it's multifaceted. They have a semi-decent tenacity to where it could be on the top, and it can help you taper into the heart notes. Just very good, right? Because we want a seamless, smooth kind of blend. If that's how you're blending. A lot of people make linear fragrances nowadays, but we're not going to get into that. Next up, you have benzoyl acetate. So benzoyl acetate is in my opinion, the main odorant of jasmine. It smells very jasmine-y. It can also smell slightly bubblegummy, kind of banana-like. The way I think about benzoyl acetate is if the color pink had a smell, it would be benzoyl acetate. Next up, you have geraniol. Geraniol smells like a rosy lemon, a faint rose with some lemon nuance to it. It's a nice material. It's found in most rose absolutes alongside citronella, but we don't have citronella on here because I don't really like citronella like that. It gets a little soapy. And my daughter, she got some Aquaphor shampoo body wash thing, and it smells like just straight citronella. And citronella is supposedly restricted to some fucking percent. I don't know what. So why would you put in a baby thing? Because everything in America is fucking poison. I'm not trying to vent, guys. And then you got PEA, phenyl ethyl alcohol. Phenyl ethyl alcohol, super pretty. It's nice and diffusive. I love phenyl ethyl alcohol. It's super nice. It goes in so many things. You can use it at high doses. You could use it at really low doses, and you'll still capture it out. It's nice, floral. It's rosy. It's pretty. In my opinion, it's a very just pretty molecule. Then we have Ylang Ylang Extra. Now, I personally prefer something called Ylang 2, so it depends on its time of when they extract the flowers. So there's like a 1, 2, 3 variety. So Ylang Extra, it's sweet, it's floral, it's slightly narcotic in my opinion. I really like Ylang Ylang, but the Extra to me is just a little too, I'm Ylang, right? That's kind of the vibe I get from Ylang Extra. Whereas like the 2 version to me, it smells more like darker. I like this real, I don't know, I think it's better in my opinion. but it's probably not quality-wise better. But whatever. Everyone's favorite, Hedione. So Hedione, people often attribute it to jasmine. I don't, because it doesn't really give me jasmine vibes, even though that's the source of it. But Hedione is not as simple as people think it is. So everyone hears Hedione, or like a lot of beginner perfumers, they'll think, well, not perfumers, but beginner people who get into making perfumes. I know I'm not a perfumer, I'm just a guy who makes perfumes. If you spend 8 hours a day plumbing, I think it's safe to say you're a plumber. Just saying. So anyways, Hedione, a lot of people will make formulas and then they're like, oh, well, let me add 20% Hedione, and then it's going to be all this diffusive, powerful, super thing. That's not how Hedione works at all. Hedione has to be built with. It's not something you make and then you just throw Hedione on top and expect it to be better. It's not a magical molecule. It's not what it is. It has to be worked with. As you can see in the formula, it's very high. And I think it's going to be okay, in my opinion. It might be shit. I don't know. As I said, I just wrote this up really quick. We're going to see what we got, right? We can't be scared. Here. And I'll get more into it. Next, we have benzoyl salicylate. Benzoyl salicylate is a very faint odor. Now, if you smell benzoyl salicylate, the synthetic version, you might not smell anything. It took me a little while to smell it, but I'll constantly smell it every day. And it has an odor and has a nice odor, in my opinion. But it's very, very faint. You might not smell anything. And that's okay. Because benzoyl salicylate, you don't use it intentionally for an odor. You use it more for a texture, and it creates not a cloud, but it creates this feeling amongst the fragrance. Because sometimes you might have a formula that's like real heavy or dense, and then like benzoyl salicylate can help lighten it up and just add this thread of a floralcy feel to it. So I know that might sound a little confusing, but it is what it is. Next, we got cis-3-hexanyl salicylate. Cis-3-hexanyl salicylate is like amyl salicylate's with brother. Cis-3-hexanyl salicylate is fantastic in things like fougères. It's green. It's slightly balsamic. It's kind of floral, and it again can create that texture, but it has a much more pronounced odor than benzoyl salicylate does. And a lot of people attribute it to clover. I have no idea what the fuck that smells like, so I'll take you for your word. Next, we have up another fan favorite, Isui Super. Isui Super, it's considered an amber molecule, whereas in my opinion, I think it smells more cedar than anything, even though its molecular name is patchouli ethanone. It has a really big molecular name, but that's another name for it, patchouli ethanone. And it doesn't smell like patchouli to me either. It definitely has more of a cedar vibe than amber. Now, Isui Super, as opposed to Hedione, which I said has to be built with, a lot of times Isui Super can be built on. So it could play this foundational background, and then you could build on top of it, and that's how that'll go. Next up, you have a very popular musk called Galaxolide. If you're worried about biodegradability, you're on your own there. Galaxolide is just a super usable musk. It was in Kiehl's musk at like fucking 90%. Has a nice odor. You can pick it up from the top to the bottom. It's a long-lasting thing. It's very viscous. So, good morning. And last but not least, we have vanillin, which smells like vanilla. In my opinion, vanillin has somewhat a kind of a more of a darker, sweet, powdery vibe to it, as opposed to another thing called ethyl vanillin, which is much more strong, like a lot more sweet, a lot more pastry-like. Whereas vanillin, it could blend very nicely with a lot of things. So just really quick, as you can see, the way I built the formula is we're going from citrus into some light floral. So benzoyl acetate, geraniol, PEA, they don't last that long, so they're gonna just taper into each other. Then it's gonna go in the ylang-ylang. It's gonna help with the benzoyl acetate, the benzoyl salicylate, and the Hedione to create more of a jasmine feel, because we have the PEA and geraniol, which is kind of giving that rosy vibe to it, and Hedione will pair with both. Now the benzoyl salicylate, as I said, it kind of goes with the jasmine, but it's kind of balsamic, which is going to taper us into the cis-3-hexanyl salicylate. And that's going to bring us into our woody portion, which is very small in this formula, which is just Isui. So that's the only woody thing we have here. And the Galaxolide is going to be behind everybody, and the vanillin will be playing in the background. And I assume that more along the dry down, that vanillin will start coming through more and more pronounced, kind of after, I would say, around the PEA starts doing the dips. Yeah, I'd say PA probably is the longer lasting out of those top 4 molecules. Yeah, so I got my cup. I'm gonna blend this really quick, and then we're gonna get into it. So I finished blending it up, and I'm gonna put it into our. I don't know, you just kind of want to give it a nice little stir for a little bit, because I'm not gonna be able to fit all of this into here, because life, I don't know, whatever. What are you gonna do? Microphone. And if you blended this up now, we can obviously test it together. One big happy fucking family. So let's see what we got. Bong. Alright, let's see what we got. Oh, I'm cutting it close. Okay. I know they say you shouldn't like shake, but whatever. What are you gonna do? Do a little spritzing. 5-6 sprays over there. See what we got. Okay, so you could immediately smell the bergamot is definitely playing in the background. You could pick up some of that benzoyl acetate coming through a little bit. Heavy on the hedione and benzoyl salicylate, 100%. So it's super airy, very floral, very musky actually. And you could surprisingly smell the vanillin in the background. I should probably test this on skin just to see, but I don't want to smell like this all day, fortunately. Yeah, and you could kind of pick up, so some of the greenness is coming through from that cis-3-hexanyl salicylate. I'm actually thinking maybe I should drop some of the hedione and benzoyl salicylate and actually up the bergamot and up the benzoyl acetate, so we can get more of that jasmine-y vibe on top, because it's kind of, so it is leaning jasmine, and I think also with the help of the ylang-ylang and again that benzoyl acetate, that small amount is coming through. So that's what I was talking about. A lot of times you have to understand some materials, impact and diffusivity to see how things are going, because it's definitely more jasmine leaning than anything, but it is also to a degree kind of like a nondescript floral. So it smells very feminine, it smells very floral. It's, I'm not gonna lie, for 11 material, it's actually pretty nice smelling, very pleasant. So it's not necessarily changing right now. I think because we're on strip, and strips, they're good, but skin is always better. We like the skin. And I'll probably just come back within an hour and we're going to see where it's at. And then we're going to talk about maybe making changes, this, that, and a third. Or maybe, you know what? I'll probably make that a separate video. This video is probably long as fuck already. And so if you've made this, tell me what you think. And also, if you made any substitutions, put that into it. Maybe we could discuss together what made changes and things like that. Also, I want to point out that this formula, as I said, it's not necessarily nuanced. There's not too much character to it. So it's a very basic beginner type thing. So it kind of gives you the foundation. And also this helps you understand that to make something smell nice isn't that difficult either. This isn't really that hard. And it kind of gives you an idea on how you can start building things, because this is a very nice foundation to build a lot of character and nuance on top. Is what, it's kind of what you want. So that top portion is actually kind of calmed down a lot, and you're picking up a lot more of the cis-3-hexanyl salicylate than I had expected. So it's kind of smelling like that with the hedione on top. You're not really picking up too much isomy super. I think in time it's going to start coming through a little bit more. As I said, remember, we're like 3 minutes into smelling, so obviously you're not going to get all the nuances again because it's also on paper. I probably will try it on skin. I think I should, for the sake. I quite like it though, but it's pretty faded now. And I think it's because it's too heavy. There's too much galaxolide, too much hedione, probably too much benzoyl salicylate. So this is good because As I said, I didn't know what this was going to be like. But again, this is also a foundational thing. So we can either play around with this, or you could start adding things and subtracting some of these ratios. And we're going to add in certain things to make it more lifty or more interesting. It has a nice odor to it, but definitely heavy on the Hedione. Definitely heavy on the Hedione and the Galaxolide. So I think we're going to drop that down, because also Hedione, not Hedione, but Galaxolide is very viscous. It's a thick molecule, and it could weigh things down as opposed to playing in the background. Remember, it's almost 30% Galaxolide. So this is a lot of Galaxolide for such a little bit of fragrance. So yeah, that's what we got for today. I'm going to smell it later, and I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about changes. Try it on skin, see how you like it, if you've made it. And if not, thanks for watching, right? Yeah, so I'll see you later on the next one. We're going to focus on this, and we're going to make more of the removing my camera. So we're going to come back on the next one, and we're going to do more with this one, and we're also going to make the masculine one. And we're going to see how that goes. That one might be more interesting. So I'll see you on the next one. And obviously, it'll be much shorter because we don't have to talk about everything we talked about today. But we can talk about a little bit. Anyways, that's what I got for today. Adios, amigos. See you on the next one.